Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. This is episode 104. We are like dead in the middle of November here. It is actually really warm. Today and tomorrow actually like 60 degrees here in New York, so it's unseasonably warm. It's beautiful out. These last couple of days I think we're going to get of warm fall-like weather, but all's good. Thanksgiving's around the corner. Gearing up for the holiday, as I'm sure all of you are. This is our last weekend before Thanksgiving. And this week's podcast is actually going to be kind of like a hashtag Ask Dr. Mudgil podcast. I got a great question via text. We use a community platform. So folks, when you see that number to text me, that those are texts that are sent via community and they come right to my phone. So I got a really great question over the weekend. And I mentioned in my response to the person who asked the questions, I said, I want to make a video about it. It was going to be like an Ask Dr. Mudgil post, but it's actually a pretty detailed question. We're going to dive into it and get pretty deep into the response. I figured it'd be a great content for a podcast. So here goes. So let me share the question with you guys. I need these glasses now. I'm getting old. All right. So the question comes in from a guy named Todd. And the question is, hey, Doc, I was watching one of your procedures for a back cyst, and you guys were talking golf. I caught that bug in my 20s and 30s. I still played a little in my 40s, but some health reasons have curved my abilities. This year hasn't been good either. I have pancreatitis after doing my colonoscopy. They found ulcerative colitis, which explained a lot. Since then, this year I've had a 2.5 centimeter kidney stone. I broke my left wrist, and after my feet swelled up, they found a large blood clot in my left leg that they say is large. Not to mention that the fridge took a dump and had to put a dog down. Anyway, I used to be a jock when I was younger, and now that I'm not golfing, has been approximately 5 to 6 years since I played and have become seriously out of shape, and I'm pushing 60. Any advice on how I should pursue getting back in shape, as it's hard to even walk now? Hopefully that will change. You had mentioned weights once, but that won't do much for cardio. One doc is telling me to take it easy, and another says I need to get moving. You are obviously in great shape, so I thought I'd ask your opinion. I look forward to your response at your convenience. Sorry if I'm a pest. T. And I sent him a brief response. I said, hey, Todd, this is a great question. I'm going to record a video response. In short, though, dump the doc who said to take it easy. That's absolutely terrible advice. Get your diet in check. I have a few videos about this. Walk as much as you can and lift weights. Let's get it. Well, that was my short response. And Todd, here's my longer response. So, listen, you've had a rough year, obviously, and I'm sorry to hear about all those things that you're going through. But as the year is coming to a close, the new year is coming ahead. It's time to start thinking about what you want your 2024 to look like. And, 60 is still young, and there's lots of time to get back into shape. So this is for you and anyone else who's wants to have a transformation this year. Now's this time to start kind of getting your ducks in order, getting ready to hit the ground running, and there's no time to start like now. Any momentum that you start to create this time of year around the time of Thanksgiving will carry you forward into next year and really kind of help propel you towards achieving your goal. So you're a 60-year-old guy, you got out of shape, and you want to get back into shape. You have some health issues. One doctor's telling you to take it easy. Another doctor's telling you to become active or be as active as possible. I like the latter doc. That being said, I don't know exactly what your physical limitations are at this point. I'm not sure of the nature of your wrist injury or what's going on with that clot in your leg if you're on anticoagulants and that sort of stuff. So I would consult with a doctor, maybe get a third opinion just to make sure that, being a little bit more vigorous with your physical activity, even just walking a bit, is going to put your general health in jeopardy. I assume it's probably not, especially if you're on a blood thinner dealing with that clot, but just get some clearance from a third party doctor just to make sure that, you're not going to be hurting yourself by implementing some of the strategies we're going to talk about. So you want to get into shape. So the first step is getting your diet in check. And that's literally 80% of the battle here. And you really want to be very attentive to the macronutrients in your diet, how you're eating, all that sort of stuff. So I do have a bunch of YouTube videos. I think I have 1 or 2 videos about how to set up your macros and how to set up how many calories and that sort of stuff that you need. We'll put the links to those in the YouTube video that will accompany this podcast. So if you're listening to it on Spotify or some other platform, if you do go to YouTube, you'll be able to actually access these links. I'll make sure Ismail, who's my producer, puts those in there so that they're easy to access. These videos that I created, I think some of them are like 4 or 5 years old, but the recommendations are pretty much the same. It's guidelines that I've personally used throughout the years. And just, for a little bit more background, when I started to kind of get more serious about getting into shape, and this was about, 10 or 11 years ago, actually, this Thanksgiving marks the 11-year anniversary of my fitness journey. I stumbled across a guy named Greg O'Gallagher. We'll put his link as well. He's got a great YouTube page, and just is very active on social media. And really all of the programs I use are essentially like based off of his recommendations. He's got just a ton of information. Even like my diet is based on stuff that he recommends. He's a big proponent of intermittent fasting, which I've been doing for the last decade or so, and I find it to be very, very helpful. So I'm going to kind of talk to you a bit about how to structure your nutrition, and then we'll talk about like workouts and stuff. So as I mentioned, I'm a big proponent of intermittent fasting. I've been doing it for a decade, and what that means is I wake up, I drink black coffee or sparkling water, but that's it. I don't consume any calories. I don't put any milk in my coffee, no sugar in my coffee, just black coffee. And I'll drink some sparkling water or just water. That's really all I consume. I work out fasted. Now this is controversial, but for me it works best. I find that I get like really solid workouts in, and I like to break my fast right after I work out. So I'll work out sometime, usually in like the late morning, and then I'll break my fast. So my first meal is after I work out, and I pretty much eat the same thing every day. So I'm in a different phase than you're going to be. So you're going to be working in a calorie deficit. I'm actually trying to grow a little bit, so I'm working in a calorie surplus. But regardless of what your goals are, you have to track your macronutrients. So you have to set up, in your and these videos that we'll put the links to will teach you how to do this. But as a general frame of reference, you want to consume about 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So for me, I eat like 205, 210 grams of protein a day. And then of the remaining calories, 40% of those really of the remaining calories, I try to target like 40% carbs for my total calories and like 30% fats. So it's like a 40-30-30 split, 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% healthy fats. So for me, that kind of breaks down to like 200 grams of protein, like 300 something grams of carbs, and around like 100 grams of healthy fats. On or about that. These kind of change. The protein stays constant. The carbs and the fats kind of fluctuate a little bit, but carbs are the main thing that I'll kind of adjust if I'm like cutting versus, in a maintenance phase versus a bulking phase. Now, this sounds like very hard work and very complicated. It's really not. But what I do recommend you do is download an app. So I use MyFitnessPal, and I've been doing this for 10 years, but I will still use it if I have very specific goals, just to make sure I'm hitting my macronutrients. And literally has every food in there, or you can even input your own data if you need to, if there's a food that you're consuming that's not in there, which I think is pretty hard to do. It's very comprehensive. But what I do is get a food scale from Amazon, weigh your food. So I'll have like whatever, 2 cups of rice, X grams of whatever it is, like whatever grams of protein I'm going for. It's usually like some kind of like 10 ounces of meat or something is what I usually strive for. And I weigh that, and that's how I track my macros. So that's how I know I'm getting the macronutrients that I need and I'm meeting my caloric requirements for the day. Again, for me, it's a little bit different because I'm trying to eat more. I'm trying to eat at a surplus, which is hard to do. But I track my macros to make sure I'm doing that. For you, you'll be eating at a calorie deficit if you want to cut your weight. And the way you do that is really dialing in what you're eating and knowing what you're eating. So, get a food scale, weigh your food. After you do this for a while, it starts to become second nature. Then you start to be able to kind of eyeball what you're eating. Oh, that looks like it's about, 4 to 6 ounces of chicken. Looks like that's about a cup of rice or a cup of potatoes or whatever it is. Just by going through the exercise of measuring your food and tracking your macronutrients, you'll start to get pretty good at it. So that's step one. So design the architecture of your diet. Again, I'm a big proponent of intermittent fasting, so I'll generally fast until after I work out. Then I have like an 8 to 9 hour eating window, and then I'll shut things down like around like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and then I basically start back up 11 or 12 o'clock the next day after I work out. So that's the diet part of this. Now, I'm not going to get into the crazy nitty gritty with designing your diet, but intermittent fasting, track your macros, download like a MyFitnessPal app or something that's comparable to that, get a food scale, and that's how you start with that. And then you could get more information from, either visiting Greg O'Gallagher's page or checking out the videos that I've posted on YouTube in the past. So that's nutrition, which, like I said, is 80% of it. Now, the next part of this is exercise. So generally for, I think, everybody, even someone who's 60 or 70 or someone who's 20 or 30, the best form of exercise is some kind of resistance training or weight training. So I lift heavy 4 days a week. I have 2 upper body days and 2 lower body days. You can figure out any version of that you want. Some folks are proponents of only lifting, twice a week. You're kind of doing full body workouts 2 times a week, or you could do like a 3-day split. There's lots of ways to do this, but you don't need to go crazy. So some form of resistance training, anywhere from like 2 to 4 times a week, is generally sufficient. And then, I'm not a trainer, I'm not a fitness expert, but again, like I said, I do follow a lot of the workouts that Greg O'Gallagher recommends, and just various other people now that I've been doing this for so long, or I kind of been doing it for 10 years. I kind of know my way around the gym a little bit, and I will change things up, as I see fit. And then you mentioned cardio. So cardio, really, the only thing you really need to do is just walk. And, if you can get like 10,000 steps in a day, that's really all the cardio you need and more. So those 3 steps, I think, will really help you hit your fitness goals. The hard thing is actually doing it and executing it. I talk a lot about getting your daily win, letting those small daily wins stack up. So for like fitness or getting into shape, your daily wins are hitting your macronutrients, getting your diet in check, getting your 10,000 steps in a day if you can, and getting your workout in if it's one of your lifting days. So that's it. So you do that, you set up a routine, and then you just make sure you hit whatever the daily win is for that day. Some days it's going to be nutrition, lifting, and walking. Some days it's just going to be nutrition and walking, but that's key, stacking those daily wins. And there's no way in hell you will not achieve your goal as long as you're accountable to yourself and, you're accountable to whatever fitness, nutrition schedule you create for yourself. And like I said, after you do this for a while, it becomes second nature. Like you almost like, you just can't get through the day without getting your workout in or getting your 10,000 steps in or, dialing in your nutrition. You just won't feel complete because it just becomes a part of you after you do this for a few months. So Todd, I know you can do it. As I mentioned, your specific case, I would just run this all by a doctor. Again, I don't know exactly what your physical ailments are and how far along you are into treating these sorts of things. But once you get the clearance, which I'm pretty sure your doctor will say, hey, I think it's okay for you to walk or do some light weight training or whatever the case may be. And he or she is not going to be opposed to you getting your diet in check. So that's my recommendation. I recommend to start now. I am always a big proponent of starting to work on your New Year's resolutions before the New Year, so that we can carry that momentum in to the New Year and really crush whatever your goals may be. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful, restful weekend and are just ready to crush the week ahead. Let's get it.